Hi, we're live.
Ah,
I'm
we're
Tanya,
back. I'm Nikki.
and today we have a guest.
Hi, I'm the guest.
Welcome, Anastasia. Thanks for joining us.
Thank
Yes,
you for
thank you so
having
much.
me. I really appreciate it.
So, today we're talking about The Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman. And I had seen Anastasia tweeting about it too. And I was like, you should come and be on the stream with us because we love this book.
Love it so much. It's like perfect, like for a spooky season too.
Yes.
It
Let's see,
is.
we have a few people on already. Ooh, Drunk Song of Ice and Fire history.
Yeah, that's why I was oohing before.
Ooh.
Woo,
Ooh, I
yes.
like that pop.
Sucko.
Mhm.
We're
Well,
not
let's
called
raise our
wine on an empty stomach for nothing.
yeah. Pour your glass and we'll toast to you.
Ah, yes. To the
Lady
end of
Tanya
my sobriety.
no longer has a squatter in her uterus, so cheers to that.
Cheers. So, Nikki, do you want to start with a brief synopsis of the book before we start talking about it for anybody who maybe didn't
I don't
read it?
even want to summarize it for anyone because I think that everyone should just read it. That's my stance
Honestly,
on this.
truly, yes, absolutely.
Because I don't even know like how to start. It's a little boy's adventure and introduction to the cruel world of, let's say, conflicting desires of adulthood.
Ooh,
Yeah,
Ooh,
that's a very
yeah.
nice way to put it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because like he learns, what does he learn? He learns that life isn't fair at
Mm-hmm.
all, and he learns that adults are trash sometimes. I don't know.
Most times,
Most
let's be
times,
fair, most times.
yeah. And he never learns what anatomy is.
Mm. I think the first time I read it, or actually the second time I read it, I had forgotten what happened in it. And so reading it the second time, like, well, no, the second time I listened to the audiobook and I was like on edge the whole time. I forgot how spooky it was.
It's so scary. It's scary. I'll be completely honest. I started reading this book 3 times, and it was last summer during the protests and stuff, and every time I tried to read it, it just felt so heavy to me because like, he's lonely, he's driving by himself, he doesn't want to go to this funeral, and that's like what's happening, and I was like, "Oh god, I can't take any more death." And I couldn't get into it. So a couple months ago when I finally picked it up and decided, "Hey, I'm going to read this book." When things started to unfold, I was completely surprised, and now I wish I would have read it earlier.
So when I first read it, I thought that it was going to be about the death of the opal miner
Mm-hmm.
because that seemed like such a huge thing to
Yeah,
happen. And then it's like you kind of
in
forgot
such a
about him.
dramatic way,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
for him to like have witnessed him, well, his corpse, not the actual act, but whoa,
What?
yeah, I'm just saying it was a whoa.
Oh, that something happened.
Yeah,
I also really um I like the way that when you're reading it, you do feel like you're reading an actual child's
yes,
point
that's
of
my
view.
favorite part. That's my favorite part. He's Neil Gaiman does such a good job with capturing the voice and just like the reasoning of a 7-year-old boy. And my nephew is 8, and so when I'm like reading him, I'm like, oh, this is something that he would totally say. This is how their brains work. So good, so good.
I
Excuse
think
me.
he definitely does really good with the switch back and forth because when you are reading from the kid's perspective, sort of like the flashback of what happened, you almost forget that you were apprehensive about the funeral. Like that's what led you back here. You get so
Right.
caught up in the, oh shit, what's going to happen? And then you're like, oh, wait, the real world and how this applies to an
Hmm.
adult is still going on. And we have to get through this to
Yeah.
get back to it. And I read it when it first came out because I am a Neil Gaiman stan. One of the few, I think, white authors that really, really gets it, where it's always an exciting read. So I read it
Hmm.
almost immediately, but I recently reread it. And it became like my fun nighttime reread.
Mm.
And it was really, really interesting to get back into it and sort of sink into those feelings all over again because wow, he really just does a good job. And it's probably my biased fandom speaking, but the way that like just things were described, like how the neighborhood is described, how he's going through just the aspects of magical realism, going from very real world to, oh no, there's this world and this place where magic more or less exists, and I was a part of that magical existence, was really, really beautiful, and it didn't seem overly contrived. And I think that's something that Neil Gaiman does really well, magical realism.
Yeah.
Someone asked, did they ever actually say who died? I assume one of his parents, but I don't remember it being specifically stated. No, I don't
they
think
never
they
do.
said.
They
Yeah.
never do. Mystery.
I also just realized I hadn't hit record on my audio for the first 5 minutes.
I definitely missed the intro.
Oh, I forgot to start recording my audio. Hold on.
Yes.
Well, that's where we are. This is what happens when we
Triple
have
fail.
wine.
Well, I'm recording now. I'll snatch the audio later. Yeah, the overlap of the Hemstocks world with the real world was super creepy. Like one of the creepiest moments for me was when he was in the fairy ring, because he mentions it earlier. This fairy, like that we call it the fairy ring, but it's nothing. And then when they all come and they're trying to get him out of it, that part, I think I read that like in the middle of the night, and it kind of scared me a little bit. Oh, sorry.
One of the scariest parts for me was not even really that deep into the book. That night that he runs away, when he gets put on punishment and he's like forced to go to his room, and he runs away and she chases him. Like, I don't want to overly give too many details, because I still want there to be like little surprises for the people who do actually go read it.
Right.
When he gets lost, he's just booking it, because he's like, okay, I'm already out the house, I'm already down bad, I'm just gonna keep going, GG to me. And he gets lost, and there's finally that like ego death moment of, oh, she's here, like she's already here, and I don't know where I am. I don't know where I am. It's so dark, my clothes are torn, I'm injured, I can't even run anymore. That moment, you could really feel like the desperation and the stress of, how are you gonna get out of this, sir? Like, you didn't really think ahead. Like,
and then so utterly defeated in that moment.
And then reading it in a kid's voice, to me, again, made it like 3 times more scary, because it's like you're so scared for like this little kid. He doesn't know what to do, and then he's thinking, I should have gone straight down the lane. And like it's just, and it made me so sad for him too, because what he was running away from. That bathtub scene was horrifying.
My God. Terrifying. So geez, so
and the
traumatic.
fact that he wanted to remember it. Shadowcat Bex, happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Ooh, happy birthday.
The bathtub scene that he was running away from was just, it was nerve-wracking, because he goes on about how his father never hits him, and how he makes sure to know, like, hey, well, I never hit you. And then to go from that to all that trauma.
It
had me like shaking.
And then she brings it up too. Like, she's like, and this time you won't be able to get up from the water. So it becomes like this very real point of, I know how this is going to play out, and I know you're not going to win. So it builds that feeling of defeat. So by the time he does run away, it's like, oh yeah, how do we navigate something when you have in effect invaded my home and you've turned everything against me, everything that I knew. Like, even the scene, like when he is actually like getting out of the house and he's crawling down the side of the house, and he peeks in the window and he sees his dad and her. I had to put it down for the night. I was like, see,
It's like this nanny has been here for like, and she's been there for like a day.
A day.
It wasn't
She was
even
still brand new.
I mean, the whole story takes place over like 2 days.
Yeah.
And I think what's really interesting, if you like kind of switch and focus on like what's happening in the adult world, like the whole thing is that she was there because she's trying to give people what they want and what they ask for. And so you kind of have to like, whoa, so what is it that everybody was really desiring? You know, like the mom's over there raising, you know, doing a fundraiser, and the dad's, you know, behind the scenes being a creep with the nanny, and money's popping up everywhere. And to kind of like, you know, see where people's value systems are by how she manifests them. Because his sister is like super duper happy the whole time that she's there. She's getting all the attention that she wants.
Exactly.
And, you know, before he witnessed his dad in the study with her, there was a scene where he saw his dad cup her butt.
Yep. When he wanted to go in the garden, and he normally would have, but he saw them and he was like, wait a second, I can't do that. Because she's basically intruding on all of his spaces.
And then also forbidding him from exploration and being able to leave the spaces that aren't comfortable. So he couldn't run away to the little shed.
Right.
And then she followed him there, and then expressly that he couldn't go out and explore because she was very much aware that he had knowledge of this world. She was very much aware of what was at the end of the lane, who was at the end of the lane, and also, that would be his only support system.
But also that he was literally her way out.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's under protection at the Hempstocks. You know, she can't get to him there.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, the Hempstocks.
I love the Hempstocks.
I do too.
It made me wish I had a daughter.
Their farm.
I know. And go milk their cows.
It seems fun there. I want real butter.
What was I about to say about Ursula?
I'll say that you guys are brave for reading it at night, because I always had to read it during the daytime. My nightmares are too real. I was like, this is nightmare fodder. I can't do it.
No, it wasn't too bad for me reading it at night, but it's more so movies that I can't do scary at night. The book didn't haunt me too bad. I was gonna say something about Ursula and I forgot. Yeah.
I like horror. So it oddly enough for me, it's a very comforting story.
Interesting.
Because the comfort for me was that, hey, like you can coexist. Unfortunately, the way that you found out about this world and the way that you were forced to navigate back and forth kind of sucks. And you were a kid. So you have the added stress of not being believed and not really having a proper voice to be able to say, like, this is what's happening to me. But the worlds themselves are so well done and so seamless that I really enjoy. But again, I'm a Neil Gaiman stan, and I think he does really great at world building, because again, you lose yourself in this flashback. Like, I had to keep reminding myself, even though I'd read the book twice before, like, hey, this is still something that a memory was jogged about, which also, how you forget that?
Yeah, so that's what I was gonna say. We know that like he goes back there and he doesn't remember any of this until he's there, right? I wonder, does he remember the bathtub incident? Because that part it was somewhat supernatural, but like, did he grow up remembering that happened as a kid without the supernatural aspects?
It's a good question. Like I've always wondered.
I feel like he probably did repress it, but then we don't know which parent died.
Exactly.
We don't know the full scope of how he engaged with his parents or with the house itself once he got older. Right. Because we could argue that the reason why he didn't remember any of it was so that he could repress it, so that he could move forward.
But at the end, when everything is over and Ginny Hempstock brings him home, he's already started to forget.
He's already
so I felt like, and when she says, "Oh, you know, thanks for coming to Letty's goodbye party," and then that just becomes, "Yeah, Letty's goodbye party. I had a great time." Yeah. So I definitely think him forgetting was their work.
Yeah.
because I
But
mean,
there are parts of it that I feel like were not magical. So
Right.
is he just blocking that out because of the trauma, or is
mhm.
he just completely forgetting that it even happened? Because I feel like I'd remember that at 7.
Yeah.
I definitely would have a very different relationship with bathtubs.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Completely.
it
yeah.
reminds me of Jane McKean's experience in Dread Nation, where she remembers that
Yes.
her mom tried to drown her.
Have you read Dread Nation,
I
Anastasia?
have not.
Oh,
Oh, it's
super
so
spoiler! You
good.
should
We go
totally
ahead and
read
put
it.
that on the list.
Oh yeah, if you
Yes,
like, it's
yes.
like yeah, I would say it's horror adjacent because the zombies aren't like the stars of the show, but they are definitely
They're maybe
instrumental
part of
to
it.
all the
Yeah.
actions that happen.
It's a really, really good read. But yeah, it does remind me of the scene with her mother that she never forgot,
Mm-hmm.
even though she was very young. I mean, I just you don't forget your parent trying to drown you, I guess.
Very hard to forget.
Yeah. And what Carrie, I'm saying, what, hey, Carrie,
I'll show her
that she
comments.
easily, yeah, that he easily remembered it. I feel like every time he's on their property, because we find out later that he's been there multiple times, that
Hmm.
he goes, and that's an invitation to remember everything that happened, maybe to, in her honor. And
Hmm.
because that's a place where you can process it and actually talk about it and have like all the tools that he needs to be able to work through that. But once he gets back into the real world, it's probably just like the residue of the actual events that stick with him.
Right. Sorry, I was just like blanked out for a second. I was
I'm looking.
thinking,
I have notes. I'm looking at my notes.
oh,
Same. I think to that end, one of my favorite quotes is, "As we age, we become our parents, live long enough, and we see faces repeat in time." So I
Mm-hmm.
really wonder how that affected him long term, because we did see him have a relatively good relationship with his parents as things were, as the story is starting up. Like,
Mm-hmm.
he
hmm,
loves his mom, him and his dad have this good relationship. They allow him this freedom and this ability to, move around and do what he feels like is right. He has his own space. He knows the limitations of his relationships with his parents, but that changed in a very drastic way.
right. When Ursula shows up.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm. It also makes me just wonder. Like, we know what kind of kid he was, but I think it's really easy to forget that it opens like with all this trauma, but the fact that nobody shows up to his birthday party.
Yes.
Right.
Right? Like it's a
Hurtful.
birthday party and none of the
And
kids,
that's
like
why he
even his
remembers
sister
his
and her
age.
friends, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
And
That's
you're
why
just
he
like,
remembers when it happened, because it was like the bad birthday.
mm-hmm. So you already have a kid who's feeling isolated, but like secure in the world that he's created. So it's even more
Hmm.
traumatizing when you have this, like, the force of Ursula come in and disrupt everything
Hmm.
because she's giving everybody what they want except for him.
Right. Which I didn't really understand that on this last reread, because I'm like, technically, sweetie, if it wasn't for me, you wouldn't even be here.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't understand why there wasn't a better relationship forged between them, at least some kind of pretense, because she comes in on go time.
Mm-hmm.
She comes in ready to knock him down a peg just for having the knowledge of what she is and where she comes from. But if he didn't, again, in the bathtub, try to pull that out of his foot,
Mm-hmm.
she wouldn't be here. He's the reason why she was able to cross that threshold. She was the reason why he survived that, because one, he, broke the rule for a quick second,
Hmm.
and he allowed her that, hey, like, I'm going to take you out. He should have gone to Letty, like, immediately,
Absolutely. He should have
and
let
got,
Letty know the moment he felt the stabbing in his foot.
should have. And so that was a missed opportunity. And then when he felt it moving and he was at home, he should have gone to Letty then, but he didn't. So for me, I was, with my very, very adult mind, I was like, now why didn't you go tell Shorty to come help you? Because you know that there are supernatural things. You know that there are things that are bigger than you. something that you were afraid of, and you know when you felt that energy, you know when you felt that hit, like why didn't you do that? So it was interesting to me that Ursula made that choice immediately and also chose his household and not someone like say like
Mhm.
next door where she can keep an eye. But it was like, nah, I'm about to live in your attic, I'm about to take your dad, I'm about to, you know, have your sister be on my side, and since I'm helping your mom, she's gonna love me too. So
Mhm.
there's the immediate like isolation. There was no pretense of friendship or kindness or sweetness.
Yeah, I
So
think
I
because she
wonder,
posed a threat to him just by
Mhm.
virtue of him knowing what she really was.
Yeah.
and I wonder if she acted that way out of fear because of his closeness to the Hempstocks, and maybe feeling like controlling him with fear would be easier than to befriend him. Because maybe if she's
Mhm.
friendly to him and lets him still do things, the Hempstocks might change his mind. But if she makes him
Mhm.
afraid of her because he's just a 7-year-old kid, then he'll be too afraid to go to the Hempstocks, which obviously was not what happened. But
Right.
Mhm.
I just wonder if maybe that's what it was. Like she figured, I'll rule him with fear instead, which is how a lot of people rule their children
It is.
Yeah.
with
It's
fear.
such a missed opportunity because I feel like a friend would be more apt to tell you like, hey, this is what's going on, would let you know like, hey, I'm gonna go to Letty's or I'm not gonna go to Letty's, or you could occupy
Right,
them so that they don't have that on the brain. But now you
right,
terrorize him in the space of 24 hours and he's escaping to
Mhm.
in effect run to the one person you probably would not want him to go to. Like
right. I mean, you
everything
try to
has
have him
to
murdered on your first day.
Oh my
yeah.
god.
Like that's what tripped me out on this reread was me realizing that this whole situation happened over like 2 days.
Hmm.
And I was just
Yeah.
like, damn, you wasted no time. It looks like you showed up that morning and then tried to have him murdered that night. And by the next night everything
It's done.
is
Yeah.
done. And like I think in my like false memory of this story was this happening
Mhm.
like over the summer.
That's what it felt like. It felt like it was several weeks. It was
Yeah.
like several weeks of this happening, like this, the buildup. But you get so immersed in the world and all the details because summer, it's spring or summer, like they feel forever, like forever when
Hmm.
you're a kid.
They
It
do.
just everything, like from the time that you wake up, like your days are so full of possibility and adventure potential. And
Mhm.
I think that Neil Gaiman does a really good job of like manipulating time for us to feel
Hmm.
that, the way that it stretches for somebody that age.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
because there's no moment wasted.
none
No,
at all. I
not at
mean, it
all.
really hits
Yeah.
the ground running, and
Hmm.
they cram a summer's worth of trauma into
Hmm.
2 days. Into two
Poor
days.
thing. He had his coming of age story in a weekend.
You know?
Seriously, I mean, it's just from the birthday party to the opal miner's death to Ursula
Oh,
showing up. I mean, not even like before the opal miner's death. His kitten gets killed.
I
yes, by
know
the
it
opal
starts off with
miner.
that.
But
Yeah,
Yeah.
he
all
gets
of
this
that.
mean stray cat that's like angry and hisses at him.
Hmm.
You find a body in
Monster.
the
It's
family's
called
car.
Monster.
Right.
Right.
Find a dead body. Like this is a lot in a couple days.
Yeah, and everything has a layer too, right? Because the opal miner like ran away with people's money, was
Hmm.
gambling.
Hmm.
Like his suicide story comes with a lot of real world adult consequences,
Hmm.
and that's already a summer's worth of things to deal with.
Hmm.
But
Because he even
then,
saw the body.
yeah.
Yeah. That makes me think of like how in Stand By Me, the whole thing is built about around them going to see this dead body,
Want to go
right?
see a dead
And
Mhm.
here
body?
it is, like he's got that whole story. Plus, that's just the beginning. Your
Right.
cat dies. This guy commits suicide in your family car while you have to eat the burnt toast that your dad fucked up, and then just everything else.
Hmm.
Poor
Eat the
kid.
burnt toast on the way out, no less.
Oh
Like you couldn't
God.
even sit
Cold
down to
burnt toast.
pretend. Yeah, you couldn't even sit
Hmm.
down to pretend that you cared about this toast. But then we do see like immediately that the one consideration was as soon as he got to the hemp stocks, it was no, sit down, have something to eat, Like it became focused on him in the middle of all of the things that were happening. You know, they knew what was going on. They weren't asking too many questions. It was just like, hey, pull up a seat. Have you eaten? Here's something to eat. Here's something to drink. And take a load off. Like, your dad's going to be here in a moment. Like, they're going to come and they're going to get you. And adventure. Because, you know, Letty's about that action.
Yeah.
One thing about it.
This is a really great point by Cheryl. I was just thinking, this boy doesn't even have a name. In old phase stories, names hold power. So how fitting that this nameless child is utterly powerless.
And that's so super interesting to bring up, because even when Letty first goes to like bind her and send her away, she doesn't know her name, and that comes back.
Yeah.
So that's a really good observation. Thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah, and that was very important too, because that was the one point of communication with Letty and Ursula.
Wow, I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that either. That's a really good point.
He's got no name. I want to say it's James for some reason, but that's not his name.
No, it's not his name. We just said you just love James.
Love James.
We have a friend named James. He's great.
Shout out to James.
I forgot what Ursula's real name was.
Monkton Ursula. Oh, her spiritual her varmint name. I don't know.
So how scary were those varmints when they were just like, no, I think we'll stay?
Oh, the book, the bird,
the world eaters.
I forgot what they were called.
They were like world eaters or something. You'd think I'd remember that since I finished it yesterday.
I know. Yeah, me too. I listened to it again this morning. Bird something. Yeah.
That's another thing that kind of threw me off when I was first reading it. So I started off thinking this was going to be a story about the opal miner. I was dead wrong. I think so. I picked this book up. I'm pretty sure I picked it up at an airport randomly and just read it. But now I'm starting to think maybe I didn't, because I can't find the physical copy. But I went into it having no idea what it was about. I just was like, oh, I like Neil Gaiman. And I picked it up and I was like, I'll just read whatever he has. So I thought it was going to be about the opal miner. I was dead wrong. Then I thought this was going to be an entire story about Ursula. And of course, Ursula is a huge part of it. But by the time we get rid of, Hungerbirds, by the time we get rid of Ursula, and I'm like, there's so much story left. I had no idea that the Hungerbirds now are like the final boss.
Right.
Yeah.
And the Hungerbirds, I think, scared me more than Ursula. When they start to devour the actual world.
Yeah.
And then their just refusal to leave. And, you know, I've gone into this seeing how scared Ursula is of the hemp stalks.
And how scared she is of the Hungerbirds.
And how scared she is of the Hungerbirds. And then knowing that the hemp stalks have this power, and then the Hungerbirds just say, like, we don't have to leave. And and I was just like, what?
Like they don't have to leave because our job is not done.
Right.
You know, like they have one driving force, right? To clean the things that are wrong. And because there was a part of it still living inside of him, their job wasn't done. So they didn't have to go.
Right.
It was Letty who summoned them, right? Because she summoned too many or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
she was trying to go for a show of force that backfired.
Yeah.
Badly.
How very Cersei of her.
She was trying her best, okay? But I feel like it was really interesting too, because we see a lot of those same attitudes in Ursula when we first meet her, right? That, hey, I'm from the old world. I don't actually have to do what you tell me. I can do what I want. And you see this like perseverance to actually like make it to like the new world. She saw an avenue, she took it, and she didn't want to leave. And she was very clear about that with him in the house. Like, hey, you're not going to get rid of me. Like, I'm here. I'm going to make your life hell. You might as well just, you know, figure it out. Like, learn how to live with it. And then she's gone. And then you see like the real issue. And then you're like, oh, you actually mean it and you don't intend to leave. Oh,
right.
Yeah.
I think we need to consult a book or three, because this is not what I thought was going to happen. But the whole concept of like eating his heart too, I felt like there was a lot of heaviness and symbolism in that also.
Mhm.
I felt so bad for him. I guess I don't know how spoilery we should get, but when he decided he would sacrifice himself to save the world,
Mm-hmm.
um, I was just like, damn, this is a lot for
For
such a little
A
yeah.
man.
7-year-old.
And
Yeah,
again,
he
you're
just
still reading it,
realized.
right? And you're
Yeah.
still reading it in his voice. And he's saying, like, I don't want to die, but I don't want to lose everyone and everything
Everyone else,
either.
yeah.
Right.
And it's just like, gosh, this is a heavy cross for such a small child
It
to
is.
bear. You know?
But it's the self-awareness though of knowing like, hey, I played a part in this
Mhm.
coming to life. And
If only I'd
unfortunately,
held on to her hand.
Yeah.
if only. I mean, hey, she did say don't let go. She did.
She
Ursula
did.
tricked him though,
Okay.
you know?
She did. Also.
But yeah, I just felt so bad for him. I felt so bad for poor Letty,
Mhm.
um, who was 11, although we don't know how long she's been 11.
That was right. I love
Yeah,
that
that
he
was
asked
really
her that
cute.
question.
Yeah. Like, how
I
long
love
have you
that he
been
asked that
11?
question. And I
And
think
then no
that's something
answer.
also to remember is that he's such a well-read kid. He knows how stories work. And he
Uh-huh.
knows that, because he read like I think he said he like read the Chronicles of Narnia. And in that, like Aslan, there's a lot of like sacrifice and that kind of stuff happening. So he's well versed in how to defeat evil. You just don't expect him to make that connection and do it himself.
Cheryl says Letty probably shouldn't have taken the small mortal boy with her. That's what
That's
her
what
mom
old
Points for
said
Mrs.
me.
too.
Hempstead. Yeah.
Points
Or
for
was it
me.
grandma who said it?
Yeah, old Mrs. Hempstead said that.
Yeah, grandma said it.
And you gotta listen to grandma.
But I think also we have to consider like Letty's loneliness also,
Mhm.
because she's in the position where like, yeah, she's 11, she's been 11 for who knows,
Who
you know.
knows?
Maybe 1,000 years.
But when was the last time like she actually got to hang out with somebody that was her age and go on an adventure? Because this is not something that you share. This is the
Mhm.
family secret. This
Exactly.
is there's so much more to the world. There's not that much opportunity, I don't feel like, to explain like, hey, sometimes I go into, the little woods by my house and I vanquish things from another
I
world.
summon spirits.
Sometimes
No.
grandma and ma let me do it instead of doing it themselves.
Mhm.
So I feel like it was also about that companionship on her end, that wanting of a friend. And we never really get to explore that, but it's very clear to me on this reread that he wasn't the only one that was looking for a point of connection. He wasn't the
Yeah.
only one that was holding out his hand and hoping that somebody held on. She
Mhm.
Yeah.
was very much, trying to talk him down through it, like, hey, it's not going to be far. This shouldn't take long. Just hold on to my hand. She was very much about like describing everything, like when the reed turned into like the little kitten. Like there were so many like very cute, very, we are on a shonen adventure together moments.
Mhm.
And I felt like it was really very much about sharing that connection.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
and then
he didn't know
lucky for
Letty
her
before
to
this.
no, he
Yeah.
didn't. And then just for her to find someone who is like receptive and open
Mhm.
to her reality.
Mhm.
I
She's
mean, it would
very
have to
lucky
be a
that way.
7-year-old in order to be
It would.
receptive to that.
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
know? Yeah, I hadn't considered that. Yeah, Letty was lonely too. She doesn't know any other 11-year-old Fae children.
Yeah.
Poor Letty. But
I
yeah, it was
know.
interesting that he didn't seem to have any knowledge of them until he went up the lane to their farm either. And then made me
Yeah.
wonder, like, how long had he been living there to not have noticed them, and what kind of thing, they are probably unnoticed on purpose.
Mhm.
Right.
Because
I was
obviously
gonna
Letty
say
doesn't go
that.
to
Yeah.
school.
Yeah.
Can you imagine she's been in 6th grade for like generations?
The 6th grade champion.
Yeah, just every year you see her in the yearbook, and it's like
Hmm.
she's like, wait, my grandmother was in 6th
She's
grade
got
with her.
tenure.
Yeah, because I remember in the beginning of the story when he gets there and he sees it's old Mrs. Hemstock, and he
Mhm.
calls her old Mrs. Hemstock, and then says, "Wait, no, she can't be. Like, she must be the younger Mrs. Hemstock because she would have gotten older by now." And it's like, nope, still me.
Mhm.
And
Still
also
her.
his the way he sees Ginny Hemstock changes too, because
Mhm.
he saw her as like unimaginably old when he was 7, and then as a man in his 50s, he's like, oh, she's buxom and kind of
Yeah.
fine. Because now he's older than her, I guess.
Mhm.
Yeah. It made me wonder because like after then she disappears and she's like, it's always just been me. So I had a moment where I was wondering, like, well, are they all the same person? Is there only one Mrs. Hemstock? And maybe they're like we're talking about a Rick and Morty multiverse where there's like different ages of Hemstocks living together.
Well, she said that there were male Hemstocks, but they all
Mhm.
went out
They
into
all
the
go out in the
world.
world.
And
Mhm.
some of them had daughters who are also lady Hemstocks, but they're not pure, and
But
that they
still
don't,
remarkable.
but still
Mhm.
remarkable, and they don't need a man to make another daughter. They only, so I'm like, maybe they're like some kind of weird clone. Buxom. Buxom is a great word. I
I
love the
love
word
it.
buxom.
Yes.
Mhm.
We don't get to use it often enough. Oh, we just said that. um, yeah, they don't need a man to make a daughter. They only need a man to make sons. So, however they reproduce these Hemstocks. This is a book that I don't necessarily want a sequel to, but I
No,
can't.
that would ruin it.
But I want to know: does Letty come back? Like what like what happens next? Is he 100 years old and he finally gets to see her? But I don't
Mm,
actually want a sequel. I just like thinking about
Yeah.
what happens next.
yeah. But I think that's the good part of this story because it does leave you wanting more. And this was a short story that got lengthened.
Right.
So I feel like it does have that feel, that hunger of like, please give me more. I would definitely like to read more stories within that world, in a world where the
Mhm.
Hempstocks live
Yeah.
and they are, still keeping the faith, as it were. But I
Mhm.
don't know if I would necessarily want like a true sequel either,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
that aspect of wondering is kind of what I like about the story, because even the
Yeah.
way that it
Same.
ends, you're just kind of, there's so many questions that are unanswered, but it's still kind of satisfying because you're like, yo,
Yes.
this was a 36 to 48-hour adventure, and wow, we got a lot done. We got a lot done in that time.
Yeah.
Very true. I love the mysteriousness of it too. Like I don't need the questions answered. It is I would love to see like more stories in that world. Or short stories in that world, but for me I'm like he goes off. I feel like it's not the last time he'll be back
Mhm.
because he keeps finding his way, and whether that's he feels Letty's call in some way or another, and that's what brings him back because like ultimately she keeps calling him to come back there so she can see what have you done with your life because I'm not
Right.
allowed to be here.
Was it worth
Was
saving?
it worth it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Was it worth it? And I really like that. It's a question, and it's a question that it seems like he's only confronted with when he's there.
Mhm.
And then he has to go out in the world and come back and like kind of be accountable to his actions for however long that time has passed since he last visited.
And in that way, it's good that he doesn't remember every single thing, because that trauma doesn't inform the way that he
Mhm.
does navigate the world.
Mm-hmm.
But then he comes back to these moments of realization. It's just kind of like, revisiting a book or any other story where you're going to learn something different every time you touch it, every time you
Yeah.
engage with it again. So it would actually be really fun to see him come home, or to see him with children, how that would affect, his children being at that age where they're very, very receptive to there being more, and how that would work out.
I knew
Cheryl,
you were gonna do it. Yeah.
I was actually gonna say this. Maybe
Mhm.
he'll. Cheryl says maybe he'll bring his own child with him one day, and they'll befriend
Yes.
the 11-year-old Letty. That's what I
That
was
would be
thinking too.
awesome.
Like, or
Yeah, or
if he comes
his
with a
grandchildren,
grandchild.
because I think his children were old and grown already.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
already.
So I was thinking, yeah, like Letty finally comes back, and one of his
Oh,
grandchildren befriends her.
thanks, Bex. She
Oh,
says,
according to
Yes, they are in
Wiki,
the graveyard book. I forgot.
I have
about
not
that.
read The Graveyard Book or Stardust.
Let me
I
write
didn't read
those down.
Stardust. I
Yeah,
did
add
read
it
the
to the
Graveyard Book,
list.
and how did I forget that?
Adding it to the list.
Yep. Oh,
I
that's
just
fine.
got the audiobook for Sandman for free. It was for free on
Oh
Audible.
my goodness.
I wonder if it's still
Please
free.
tell me everything you feel and think when you read that. Sandman is how I got introduced to Neil Gaiman. And yeah.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say. Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't
Yeah.
listened to it yet. I saw that it was
Let
free
me add
and I was
that.
like, I'm going to get it. I got introduced with Neverwhere.
A
That's
good
on my list
introduction.
too.
I love Neverwhere. And
I
actually,
read
I want to
Neverwhere
reread it soon.
immediately after I finished the Sandman series. And the Sandman series for me, a friend recommended it after I was on my comic books can be so boring. Like I was in that place where I was so upset with like DC and Marvel. I was just like, ugh, how many times can I read stories with the same people? Lord help. And he recommended that to me. And I was like, it's the way I'm shutting up forever about what can be possible in a graphic novel. Like it really did change the way that I approached and respected stories that were told in that medium. So definitely a great book. If you're listening, watching, wherever you are, if you've not, please do. I quote that series almost every week since I read it.
I'm gonna have
and
to.
I read that when I was like 21. We old now.
Yeah,
21. He's up there.
21 was some time ago for me.
I don't remember a lot about 21 anymore.
So long. Yeah, Neverwhere was the first one, and after I read Neverwhere, I was like, all right, what else you got? And then I read American Gods, and then I read Anansi Boys, and I was just sucked in by then. And American Gods and Anansi Boys are two of just my favorite books, period. Like not even just from Neil Gaiman. I love Anansi Boys. I'm so excited that it's going to be a series.
Yeah,
now I have to. Now I
hope that it's better than American Gods.
Well, you know, mistakes were made in American Gods, and we're just gonna give that on up.
I was so excited for it when it first came out, and then I never even finished the second season.
Yeah, I never finished the second season either. After Old Boy departed, I was like, I'm good, thanks. Yeah. Really appreciate you. Have you read any of his short stories?
I don't know. I feel like I have, and I don't remember. My first read was Good Omens, and I was like, "Oh, hell
Good
yes.
Omens was good.
Because it's so funny.
Good Omens.
It's so funny.
That was a fun read.
I love so Good Omens.
Mm-hmm.
Made me think I should read more Terry Pratchett.
Terry Pratchett is a very... I know it sounds weird when I say this because it's such a very like pedestrian word, but he's such an interesting writer. Like the way that he puts things together is so... I'm like, you're not of this world, sir. It's very clear. Like you visit here. Like you're not from here. His writing is so like uncanny and very, very beautiful in like the weirdest way. I really, really do enjoy him. And Good Omens is how I sort of like got put onto his like other works like outside of comics also, because he's written a lot of comics as well.
Yeah, I definitely want to check out more Terry Pratchett. Alicia, Good Omens. I'm sorry, not Good Omens. Anansi is going to be played by Delroy Lindo for Anansi Boys.
Yeah, I thought Amazon did a good job with the show too.
Yeah, I thought Amazon did a great job with that. Yeah, I'm looking forward to Anansi Boys a lot. And the guy who played Kunta in the new Roots is going to play Fat Charlie. I forgot his name.
Yeah, I can see it.
So, yeah. And I like Delroy Lindo. I think that Orlando Jones would have been too young to play Anansi for Anansi Boys.
Yeah.
I loved seeing him as Anansi though. But yeah, I think he would have been too young to play him for this.
Yeah, because this is definitely way further into his personal story. Well, his personal story here.
Should we do an Anansi Boys stream?
I'm done. I haven't read it yet, so it'll be my first time.
I'm rereading that too.
All right, I
Yeah.
reread it recently, but I can reread it 1,000 times. You
Yes,
should
it's
add that
so good.
to the stream list, Nikki.
It's on the list. I've written them all down.
Should we wait until the show comes out? And we can do a
Uh,
show, book to show,
We could do that.
maybe.
Yeah,
Think
that'll
about
give
it.
me time to read it because I'm reading I have Mistborn in my future.
Anastasia,
So.
you interested in joining us for that?
Oh,
They're
absolutely.
gonna,
Anything Neil Gaiman, you can go ahead and just put me on the
just
docket.
add
Let me
you.
know where to show up. Let me
I
know
know.
what date and time, like you
I need
did.
to add my sister too because Bess is like,
I'm
he's my
here.
favorite author.
Oh,
She
Malachi
wanted.
Kirby was Kunta in the latest Roots. That's his name, Malachi Kirby. I just couldn't remember it. I enjoyed him, his acting in Roots, so I'm looking forward to it too. For Nancy Boys, I think it's pretty good casting. I wonder what they'll change, but yeah, we should definitely do. We can do a whole Nancy Boys series because
Listen.
I'm here for it.
Yes.
I'm absolutely here for it. But today we are talking about the ocean at the end
Yes,
of
the ocean
lane.
I'm glad you brought it back because I was like, I'm just itching to talk about Brandon Sanderson, like at any chance I get.
We've been avoiding talking about Stormlight Archive because it's just too much.
It's too much.
We can't
and
do it
it's
in an hour.
It's so good.
We absolutely cannot do it in an hour.
Shout out to King Killer Podcast because I'm about to eat your rereads like of this.
Are they called King Killer because they did King Killer Chronicles?
Yes.
Another series
Yeah.
that'll never be finished. I just keep getting sucked into these unfinished series, and it's just like ruining my life.
Okay, but those are the good ones, though. Those are the ones that really they make you stay up at night because you're like, please give me another book, and you know it's not happening. Like, yeah, you know it's not.
Yeah.
Like, you know it's not. Like, you mean, listen, me and George R. Martin right now.
It's like, do we need to start bullying? Like,
no,
it's
too many people are doing it.
I wouldn't
Listen,
really bully
it
him
works though.
publicly.
It's effective. And to be fair, George R. R. Martin would just give us a short story 10,000 years before the events that we need to see and keep it moving. He'd be like, "Oh, you guys wanted writing? Here's some writing."
It'll be like that gif of Rihanna throwing the stack of money at that guy with disgust on her face. Like, that's how he gives us stories. It's like,
truly, he's just gonna give us a Dunkin' egg story and just go back to sleep.
And we're gonna be
I wouldn't be mad. We're gonna be like, yay, okay.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say that like I'm not gonna be first in line to buy it.
Yeah. Fire and Blood Part 2.
Yeah, Fire and Blood. We were there first in line for signed copies. Like, you know, we're part of the problem.
Yeah, we're ready for Blood of the Dragon. Let's do it.
Let's pivot maybe back to our topic.
Yes.
So this was great. You know what? It's funny that something that stuck out to me. It was in the very beginning where Ursula was like feeding him and he refused to eat her food.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, that instinct, refused to eat her food. And I was like, well, if that's not foreshadowing evil to come, I don't know what is.
And he was so hungry.
He was starving, poor thing. He was in the shed, like eating apples,
shoveling that fruit down that he stashed. Oh, poor kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I really enjoyed? I loved, what is it? The snip and
yes, she snipped out the bad things.
Gosh, I forgot what it's called. Yes, but that was, I love that little bit of magic. And just like everything that happened in their house, like everything he ate in their house was like delicious and the most happy. It made him happy. All the things that they did. It's really interesting because he's got all these like conflicting like forces of evil, and here are the Hemstocks being like, you know, the keepers of balance in the world. And I don't think he understands that until later.
I also found it. We keep saying interesting, and I'm like, I gotta come up with another word, but that they were clear that they're not witches. And that they found spells common.
Right. Yes. Everything common. All the things. I was like, or when he asked if she was dead and he was like,
like, how dare you?
Has Hif.
Like, imagine.
Hempstock. Do something as common as dying. It's like, oh, excuse me, bitch. I didn't even know that was common.
Yeah, I think Bex and Cheryl mentioned that in the chat that they were very adamant about the fact that they were not witches.
Right.
Yeah. So what are they?
Much older. I don't know. But she was there when the moon was born.
Right. And I like that they don't necessarily fully name it because it leaves you to wonder also about how they got here, about why they
Mm-hmm.
chose here, because it's very clear that there are options, and it's
Mm-hmm.
very clear that they don't need to be here if they didn't want to. So it's a very
Yeah.
deliberate choice to be here. It's a very deliberate choice to be in that place.
And what
And
caused
that,
them to leave?
right,
Like
what caused
she
them to
remembers the
leave?
destruction of their old world.
Mhm.
And they
Mhm.
brought their ocean with them.
The
Mhm.
ocean, yeah.
It's giving me
I
old
love it.
Valeria.
It is.
No, I love it. I love how you just end up wondering. Like it makes it almost makes me want to go read fanfic. Almost very, very close. Very close. Probably not going to, but
I'll reread it again first.
it. But it, just because there's just so many ideas, like the idea of where did they come from and why did they leave.
Mhm.
Like I'd love to
Mhm.
see that story, even if
Yeah.
somebody else just makes it up.
Mhm.
You know, what
And
are they? Are there others like them? Are there
right.
others like them in this world, or is it just them?
There must be others.
There must be. Especially if there's so many surviving hemstocks, because the men have
Mhm.
left. The men have, done what men do, and now they're half hemstocks all over the place. So it would be interesting to see what that like call to action is like, if they did need to gather, if they
Mhm.
did need to, like, do they have festivals? Like, do they have things that they come together for? Like,
Is there a
Hempstock family
Hemstock Con?
reunion.
yes.
I was gonna say Hempstock family
Okay.
reunion, but Hempstock Con works too.
Right. Like, does everybody get like a matching magical
Hempstock
item?
t-shirt.
Like, is there like a portal, like you pop in, visit home, come
Bring
back?
a little cup of ocean with you to get there.
Yes.
Yes.
Definitely take a little bit of ocean with you when you leave, for
Yeah.
sure. For
Mhm.
sure.
I love it. I
No,
love it.
this was a really great read. I'm glad we got the chance to talk about it. We'll definitely add a Nancy Boys to the list and possibly do that in conjunction with the show.
Mhm.
Our next book
Pew, 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 pew,
what
pew.
is in November, right?
Mhm.
November
Oh, here.
14th.
Yes.
We're going into space.
Ooh.
The
Chilling.
Chilling Effect by Valerie Valdez. It is a space opera. It's not a scary read, it's a fun read. Let's see. Okay, I don't want to read the whole thing, but it's about a Captain Eva Innocente. And on the cover, I'll just tell you: kidnappers, alien emperors, psychic cats, and she's out of coffee. It's really fun. Her sister gets kidnapped and she has to go on a series of adventures in order to save her, is like the very short version of what it's about. And it's all space stories. And if you're into, like, I mean, it's not like Star Trek, but if you're into Star Trek, I feel like you'd like it, because I feel like it kind of reads like a multi-episode show, but it's like,
Mhm. I'm looking forward to it.
yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. And there's a sequel to it too that
Ooh, I did not know.
the title of it is not coming to me right now, but we'll just talk about Chilling Effect. So that's November 14th. October 24th, we bring back
Author?
trivia. Oh, Valerie Valdez. Okay, I'll show you the cover again. Oops, sorry, it's not mirror, so I can't. There you go. Chilling Effect, Valerie Valdez. I'll post a link. We'll update everything so that you can see it. Our
New
next
flyer
trivia
coming soon.
flyer. Our next trivia is October 24th. This will be our Halloween, Game of Thrones, A Song of Ice and Fire, spooky season trivia. I think we're gonna try to get into some cosplay and make a party out of it. I
We're
have a
dressing up.
DJ on hand who's down for the cause. So that's October 24th, also at 3 p.m. That's our perfect time for us. So we can do that. We'll post a flyer with all the information. That's on Zoom for anyone who's never done trivia with us before. That's not live streamed. It's just Zoom. So, let's get on and make a Party out of it. Book discussion is November 14th. Cheryl, I just saw your comment. So trivia October 24th, book November 14th. Hopefully we don't have any craziness. Our book club was cursed for a little while, Anastasia. We just kept having tragedy after
No.
tragedy and kept having to push the date back. Like it was getting really spooky.
No.
So now that we're back on schedule and things are being normal, I'm also wearing another pair of forbidden socks, Nikki. I believe I have a poltergeist. All of my socks disappeared one day, and then I found them in a bag in the closet, and there's just no explanation to it. So I've been avoiding wearing them, but I'm out of socks that were not in that drawer. So I've been wearing forbidden socks.
Scary.
See, and then I wore the forbidden socks. I forgot to hit record when we started. Do you see? This poltergeist is fucking up my life. So yeah, Anastasia, do you want to?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's funny that you
What?
said that because I just lost audio and my mic stopped working as you were talking about forbidden socks. That bitch hasn't forgiven me yet, apparently.
My son named the ghost in my house. I don't know if I should even say her name. because I
Don't
feel
even
like-
do it.
No, see,
Don't do it.
What did
Don't
we
do
just
it.
learn in
I know.
Ocean at the
You're
End of the
right.
Lane?
You're
Okay.
right. I should also mention that my son barely talks, but he named the ghost in our house, so that's kind of scary. But I'm not moving because
Yeah. You like your apartment.
I like my apartment and I have a good landlord, and my rent's affordable, so she's just gonna have to live here with us.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Anastasia, do you have anything you want to promote before we go?
Just my Patreon. It's Patreon.com/Chasing Lux.
We'll put that
All,
in the
all spelled conventionally, because
Patreon.com/Chasing Lux.
Yeah.
LUX.
And that's it. And I'm the same
Oops,
everywhere. So
I
you can
did that
find
wrong.
me.
Sorry.
I'm easy to find because it's Chasing Lux everywhere. I like to talk about books and spooky things and fun things and whatever you like. Because I love when somebody's passionate about something. It doesn't even matter if I'm not all the way interested. So yeah.
It feels good just to see somebody get all
Yes.
excited.
It is. If you're passionate about it, I will find a way to be interested because I'm definitely that person that's like, "Oh, girl, and then what happened? Tell me what happened." So I'm easy to find. All I do is talk shit on Twitter. But books, comics, shows, movies, that's the zhuzh right there.
Awesome. I will add your link also in the description if I can edit it. But
Thank you.
all
And I
of this will-
appreciate it. And I
Oh, no
appreciate the
problem.
invite. This was fun.
No, I'm so glad to have you. I saw you tweeting about the book and I was like, oh, I have to ask her. And then I got weird about it and I was like, is this going to be weird? Because I'm just like a socially anxious person, even online.
No.
And I was like, is this going to be weird if I DM her? And it took me like 2 weeks to finally just send a message. I kept been telling Nikki, like, I'm going to DM her. And then I'm like, no, like, I should wait till she's currently tweeting. So it's not like weird. And then I was like, okay, now I'm like watching the timeline. That's weird too. I was like, all right, Tanya, just stop being weird. Just send her the message. And I'm like, oh my God, what if she says no? And I was like, well, if she says no, it's okay, Tanya. I went through a whole gamut of just.
I would not say no to that. But that's the thing too. Like, even if it wasn't a book that I hadn't read, I am such a sucker for a book club. People who actually. There was a point, I think, in February where I was a part of 4 book clubs, like 2 of which I was like moderating, and just 2 random ones that I found. So for me, again, I'm always interested in things that other people are passionate about. So if you would have been like, hey, we're reading this book, I need you to read it by this weekend, I would have done it. I would have been like, you know what? Okay, stop talking so I can get to the book right now. But yeah, I really
Good
do
to know.
appreciate like a great story and a great discussion. So I'm always down. I'm always game.
Awesome.
Yeah.
When we work out the Anansi Boys stuff, definitely want to have you back for that.
Yes, let me
Mhm.
know.
We've got a bunch of really cool books coming up through. I think we've planned through like March or something.
I think
And
so.
so we'll be dropping those on you guys. And I'm very excited about.
We'll drop them one by one so that we have the
Yeah.
space to change our minds.
Yeah.
Smart.
Yeah.
Oh wait, we're not going to change our mind about our January book,
Hell no, we're
the
not.
5th season.
We have been waiting to do that.
This
one.
book club got started because of the 5th season, and then we didn't make it our first book. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's whatever.
Shout out to NK Jemison. Read
love
all
her.
of her
That-
stuff.
Yes, that book has been on my list for a while. So
Oh,
that might be
it's
motivation
so
for me to read
good.
it.
It's on the
It's-
list of there's several lists, but it's on NPR's list of like best sci-fi fantasy in the last 10 years.
Yes.
It's one of the best books I've ever read.
Yeah, the 5th season, Cheryl.
Yeah.
Whew, so good.
So that'll be January. But right now we're focused November. So trivia October 4th, 3 p.m. Eastern.
We're so excited. We haven't done trivia in so long.
Yeah, we have
Because I got
not.
COVID.
Yeah. But yeah, so we'll do that. You can find us Twitter, 1,000 Eyes and One. Facebook, 1,000 Eyes and One. No, I'm sorry. Twitter, 1,000 Eyes One. Facebook and Instagram, 1,000 Eyes and One. And for book club specific things on Instagram, it's Wine on an Empty Stomach. Our website is 1000eyespodcast.com. All we post there is just the links for everything. So if you want to read, if you want to listen to old episodes or watch, past ones, the links are all there. I'll be updating today with the link for The City We Became. I haven't updated that yet. So, find us, join us. Again, Anastasia, thank you so much for coming. It's been really great.
Wait, can we give a shout out to the Caribbean trifecta that's happening here?
Yes. I'm like, hold on. Somebody said Guyanese. I'm like, hi, in the building. What's up?
Guyanese and Trinidadian. I'm Jamaican, both sides.
Yeah, St. Lucian.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh,
So
we should have been drinking
master?
rum. What were we thinking?
I'm a mean rum drinker. You don't want to drink rum with me.
I love drinking rum, and I was trying to be on theme with the wine.
That's true. That's true.
Or rum is the go-to. But yeah,
rum on an empty stomach just sounds like dangerous. I would choose for the rest of the day. That's the
kind of danger I like. I'm not gonna hold you. That's the kind of spice I like to get into.
Word.
Awesome. Yeah, this is great. So we'll see where I'm gonna end the broadcast. We'll see you guys soon, hopefully. Thanks for joining us. And again, happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Bex! We need to hang. Let's talk about that offline.
Yes, we do need to hang. Okay. See you later, guys.
Bye.